I'm here today with David Marlow, who I met on LinkedIn, the Ikigai guy that I found intriguing. Hello, David. You
Hi,
are
good morning.
the Ikigai guy. Is that true?
I am. That is true. Yes.
So you help people find their purpose?
So yeah,
Yeah.
I help people uncover and live into their purpose, and I help businesses bring their purpose to their products, their people, and their customers.
Okay. Let's draw it and you explain what that means. So maybe the very first thing is you tell me what is your idea? What is this Ikigai or the Ikiquest? Would you explain
Sure.
that?
Sure. So the idea is to live into our Ikigai, which our Ikigai is living and experiencing your essence, who you really are in your heart, your purpose, and living those out in harmony with whatever you do.
So it's three overlapping circles I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful example right there.
And one is purpose.
Mhm.
The next is, what was that?
That's harmony, or
Harmony.
yeah. I also call it the who, what, and why, but we can go with this right now. And then essence.
Okay. Purpose, the purpose and the harmony and the essence and all together is going to be not the essence, but the
Oh, in the center, Ikigai.
Ikigai.
Ikigai. Yeah, there you go.
And the purpose, yeah, how do you do that? Before we fill it out, maybe you tell me how you do that. Let's maybe draw your client when they come to you and they are not clear about that. What are they experiencing?
Sure. Well, so you may be like a middle-aged professional who's just feeling stuck or realizing that the default path that they've been on, the things we all do and the steps we all take just wasn't fulfilling, or it might be a young person searching for their life purpose. And what typically I've seen is there are three invitations of Ikigai: getting the noise down in our lives, uncovering our purpose, and then a strategy around living it out.
But
And most,
that's okay, getting the noise down. But let's first draw what they are experiencing
sure,
before they get
sure,
the noise down. So he's
right.
experiencing noise.
Yes, experiencing noise, disappointment, frustration, a lack of meaning.
So he is maybe, is he successful or what is he
Yeah,
driven by? Or
let me give you an example of
yes, please.
someone that, so I won't use their real name or their
Yeah.
real company, but I worked with a gentleman named Tom who was in his mid 50s, an executive at a large company that's name you would recognize. And Tom just felt there was something missing in his life, even though he had been successful. He was married and had been happily married and was still in love with his wife, but felt like that had kind of grown cold. His kids were a little distant, and his career wasn't really what he had hoped it would be. He achieved everything he wanted to achieve, and yet there was still something missing. And the interesting thing about Tom was he had a life coach, a fitness coach, a nutrition coach, a business coach. And then Tom reached out to me because he wanted to uncover his purpose. And my first reaction when Tom called me was, wow, if those people can't help me, I'm not sure what I'm going to do here. But what we did was just what you had asked about, and that was get that noise level down in his life. There was a lot of noise, and there was a lot of focus on things that really weren't the values that he wanted to live into.
Where's the noise coming from?
It's from the voices in our head, right? So over the years, we get layers and layers and layers of things built on us of what we should do and have to do and ought to do. There's the sense of mortality that's coming into play in the sense of all of us, realize when you and I both have white hair, so we've reached that point where we understand that there's a time limit. Your kids are growing up, and a lot of times you start to see some of the things in yourself that you haven't dealt with surfacing in your children, and it causes you to reflect, and things you've wanted to do that you haven't done. And then those big achievements, like he was an executive at a high level, and that's what he had wanted to be. And yet he felt like he needed more. So what do you do when you've reached the point where you're at the top of what you thought you wanted to be and have the money you need and all those things, and there's something more?
Yeah. Okay, let's draw him on a mountaintop, maybe.
I love this, by the way. It's really, oh, I like that. Yeah, yeah, exactly. No,
But it doesn't look very comfortable.
no, no. Good point. Good point.
And his family, what is happening with them? Are they?
So his oldest son was heading off to, or not daughter, I think was the oldest one, was heading off to college. And he didn't feel like he was as close to her as he wanted to be. And so time was running out for that as well.
So is not unhappy, but maybe the wife doesn't get the attention she wants to.
Right, right. And they weren't experiencing things together like they had been when they were younger. There was some distance from them, not like a problem, not pending divorce or anything serious like that. It just, there was a distance. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, I think this captures it maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Lacking meaning and purpose. Or maybe he has a life coach, and maybe we can see this here also as a just what he has checked is the career.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, then what does he want, or what do you promise them? Now I will just copy this over here and change his situation so it becomes better. What is it that after you worked with him, and we will go back to how you're doing it, what is happening? He is probably happier. That's maybe the first thing we must hope. What is happening in his life? Does he still have his job?
Yeah, so we defined we gave him a purpose. I call it an Ikigai verse. So it's a working model of a purpose definition. Call it the Iki verse.
Iki verse.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it written?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The reason I do that, so I'll share my own with you just to give you a bit of insight. So that comes from a discussion of values and the action that speak to you. So mine is I encourage, empower, and enable people to be all they were meant to be. And when I share something like that, that gives people a different idea of what I do than when I say, well, I'm a coach or I'm a consultant or I was an executive or whatever. But I can apply that to anything in my life. So I can apply that to being a grandfather. I can apply that to the various careers I've had. And I'll share with you very quickly. So I was a disc jockey, a radio TV personality many years ago. I was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. I was an engineer in 2 different disciplines. I was an executive at several different Fortune 500 companies. I was my daughter's 8th grade basketball coach. In all of those, when I was my happiest, when I was at my best, when I was doing the things that I really valued, I was encouraging people. I was giving them the tools necessary for them to be what they wanted to be. And I was empowering them with the skills or environment where they could succeed. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's my Iki verse, right? And so working with Tom, we worked to get that. Mm-hmm. And initially, his Iki verse, and you can imagine this from an executive of a big company, was more like a company mission statement, had metrics and deliverables and outcomes and things like that. And Tom had shared with me that he really wanted to travel and there was no travel in their life. And so I showed him his verse. I said, where is the travel in this? Where do you travel in this company mission statement, basically? And so we rewrote that and worked on that many times. And that occurred after we got the noise level down in his life, of course. But the work that we did there helped us clarify that to get him something more in line with making a difference, making a dent in the world. I think we even used that term.
Is there a formula of this Ikiverse that would apply for everybody? So
the basic process that I use, and I try to make something as simple as possible and no simpler. And so the simple process is to think of, I call it the 3 V's. So you get your 3 verbs that really speak to you. I put that in the middle because it belongs to your process. Oh, yeah, I like that. 3 verbs, your values, things that you value and the values you have in your life. And then you create a verse out of that. Huh? And, that's the very simple process. But the great thing about that is that it gives you both a working model for your head. It's also something you can share with other people. So when I first retired from the corporate world, I thought about being a coach and consultant like I'm doing right now. And the reaction of people around me when I shared that with them was, well, there's like 7 billion coaches. You want to be a life coach? There's all kinds of life coaches. So I stopped sharing that and started sharing, well, my Iki verse is encourage, empower, and enable people to be all they were meant to be. And they'd say, you know what? You ought to be a coach.
Mhm.
It framed it differently for them and gave them that sense of what are the deeper elements of what I want to do.
It was
And so,
encourage, empower, and what?
enable.
Enable.
Yeah. Mhm. My brain kind of goes to an alliterative thing. And so
Yeah.
that works for me. It's not necessary that all of them are alliterative for people.
And what are the values?
So in value for me is purpose and integrity. Integrity being integrated self. So when you're not living a life of integrity in the sense of authenticity and reality, then you're disintegrating. And so value that I got was that integrity.
Oh, integrity, just integrity.
Yeah. Sometimes people assume that's integrity, like don't lie, don't steal, and certainly that's part of it, but it's more the integral aspect of it.
Do you want once again repeat your own Iki verse?
Sure. I encourage, empower, and enable people.
People are also in the formula.
Yes, yeah. In this case, yeah.
Not always.
Sometimes I apply it, and so I say the power of the verse is you can apply it in harmony with whatever you're doing. So if I'm working with the business, I can apply those same principles and things to a business application. But my heart is obviously for people, and even the business work that I do is about the people at that company and the customers they serve and that kind of thing. So yeah.
So I encourage, empower, and enable people to live.
To be all they were created to be.
Interesting. Okay. So this is the Iki verse that he now knows. And that just for him, he knows who he is, or he knows what does it do for him to have that. And
yeah. So a really good example was he was able to take that right away to his boss and share that with his boss and say he wanted to find ways to live more into that. And part of his vision was he was just doing a lot of traveling, a lot of meetings, and a lot of bureaucratic stuff. He wanted to have a closer impact on the world as a whole and people in general. And the really cool thing was his boss said, "Oh, hey, this is great. Yeah, I can think of some things right away." And they began to reorient the focus. I mean, he didn't change jobs. He didn't change accountabilities in terms of what department he ran and that kind of thing. But he was able to start spending more of his contact time on the areas that he was most interested in. And so right away, work life is much better.
So the company is still here. The money is still here. So we don't have to put that away.
Right.
But it's not this is still here. But more fun.
Right. Yeah.
He doesn't mind the money, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess you could even, he's now, positively impacting the world in ways that he didn't feel like he's able to before too, through his work. Yeah.
So this is the world. Recognize it. The mortality is still there, of course, but it's not as bad anymore. Or what is happening with the mortality?
Well, he got fitter. So just in the time we worked together, he didn't lose any weight with the fitness coach, but he lost 10 pounds working with me and started some habits.
Okay, let's make him a little fatter here then.
Oh, yeah, I like that. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure he'd appreciate that too.
So now
now he's
slim and fitter. So how do you symbolize health? I mean, it's in his body. And this is still mortal, but maybe it's a little further away.
Yeah, less a sense of foreboding and more a sense of opportunity to do some things that he wanted to do before he passes away, I guess. Let me share. So he wanted to do some traveling. Now, if you felt like you wanted to travel and you wanted to see the world and you're seeing the window of time for that shrink and there's nothing enabling you to do that, that's something that really weighs on you. Whereas now he saw the ability to reorient his time and his focus to be able to do more of the travel. And so the, 20, 30 years of remaining life doesn't seem as a negative in that sense.
Is his wife closer now?
Yeah, so part of it too.
Are they traveling together?
Yes. Yeah. So that was one of those needs things. Like he wanted to travel and she wanted security and felt like just wild travel things weren't going to do that. And so they started talking about what kind of travel did he really want? And he didn't want to camp in the safari in a tent and risk being eaten by lions. That's what she imagined. And yet that wasn't really what he wanted. He wanted to see unique places that they didn't get to see. And so they really talked out both their needs and came up with some places where they could both have what they were looking for, a bit of adventure without big risk. And so they came together on that.
Maybe a suitcase.
I like that. The other thing that, and I wonder how we can illustrate this, but he was always, I'm going to say absent. So when I say being present, he was kind of the opposite of being present when before. There was just so much on his mind and so much weighing on him and so much bothering him. He really wasn't very present. And that was part of the problem with his daughter and a big problem with his wife and even his job. He just wasn't present. And by getting the noise level down and clearing out some of the things, the have-tos and the voices in her head and the fears and all of those things, he was much more present with his family, which almost on its own cleared up a number of issues. So in our after Tom, he's much more present, connecting with his daughter. And instead of feeling a foreboding, her going off to college, it was an openness to share the experience with her, to be spending some quality time, some specific time with just her before she went off to college.
Yeah, I have her talking on the phone. I have already sent her to college.
Okay, all right, very good.
Because, I mean, yeah, that's a connection.
Yeah. So I almost wonder if just the overall present, like I imagine him, he didn't do meditation, but almost in the cross-legged position, kind of thing that
Okay.
He's not much more present, much more thoughtful. And
should we put him in a meditation seat?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, that's kind of cool. Oh, nice. Yeah. Oh, I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Still has his business shirt on, but he's doing his. Yeah, there you go. I like it.
And maybe the other hand has to be down.
Okay.
Because all this is now happening by itself.
His diet improved dramatically. Again, I'm not a nutrition coach, but I do know habits and stress eating and things like that. And so just eliminating that helped him. Like I said, he lost 10 pounds right away in the time we were working together.
Great. Okay, that sounds very desirable. How do you get them? What is your secret here?
Oh, so the secret is getting the noise level down and then uncovering that purpose, uncovering your Ikigai. And when I say uncovering, people will often ask me about finding it.
Yeah.
But it's not a thing you got to find because it's there all along. I mean, if you watch a kid play and just be themselves, right? My granddaughter loves to skip, and I just love watching her skip. She's happy. She's just being a kid, being everything she was meant to be, because the world hasn't told her otherwise yet, right? But as adults, we get into this thing where disappointments happen and failures, and even the words and advice of well-meaning family and friends starts to kind of cover up our Ikigai. Oh yeah, I like that. Yeah. So it's a process of uncovering.
But how do you do that? How do you uncover somebody's purpose?
So part of it is experimentation and trying. So I run, for example. And so running is an expression of my Ikigai. But I didn't know that 13 years ago. I started running again. And so trying and doing and listening to the voice of your experiences, there's lots of clues as to how you want to live your Ikigai. I have my coffee here. I love good coffee. And this will be a good example, just even for our conversation, whether you can illustrate or not. I love coffee. I talk about coffee a lot in my posts on LinkedIn and my newsletter. And people will often tell me, you should own a coffee shop. And here's the thing. I love drinking really good coffee, espresso in particular, right? I don't like running coffee shops. I don't want to run a shop. I don't want to form a business plan. I just want to sip on really good espresso, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where you start to dig into what do you enjoy in life and what do you enjoy about it. And like my Ikigai would be to work with the person who wants to run the coffee shop and help them incorporate it into their life and run the business well and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then running for me is an expression of my Ikigai as well, because it allows me to stay physically fit. I spend a lot of time present. My wife and I joke that it's probably helped us stay married because I go out and run for a while and do some things, and it helps my mental health. But it's also taught me a lot about myself. So long distance running will reveal a lot about your character and what you are all about, believe me.
Mhm.
run marathons, things like that. And so it's investing in self-reflection, it's investing in doing and experiencing, it's investing in being present and connecting with people on a real level. Those experiences, those things will start to peel those layers away that are covering up
Mhm.
a deep essence in your purpose.
What I would love to find out here,
Mhm.
I mean, people can, of course, hire you, but if somebody's watching that, is there a question that maybe for each of these circles that people can ask themselves to get to this state here that we all want?
Yeah, so a single question. Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, purpose. You said,
For each
what do
one.
you love doing?
Yeah. So in the who, what, and why. So the purpose, I'd say, is why.
Purpose is why. Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Harmony is what, and the essence is who.
So they have to ask themselves, who are you?
Mm-hmm.
To find their essence. Is it as simple as that?
Yeah. So I actually start typically with the purpose, the Iki verse, only because self-reflection and things to do that deeper dive into who you are takes time. And if you wait until you have a really strong sense of yourself, it'll be a long time, right? I mean, I'm 62 and I'm still figuring myself out a little better every day, right? That's what the logo on the screen here is for. It's a continuous deeper dive. You're never done. But I recommend people start with their purpose statement or their verse because it helps you have a working model to do those things like trying things out and stretching yourself. And then it is an investment in self-reflection and coming to know that, who that person really is.
So essence is have to ask themselves, who are you?
Yeah.
But purpose, it's just try different things out and see what feels best. Is it that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a client, for example, who's a very good salesman, super salesman. And when we really dug into what he enjoyed doing, he actually enjoys improving and helping other people improve the sales process more than the sale itself.
Mm-hmm.
And he's now gearing his career more toward creating training and programs that'll help others close the sale and do that kind of thing, much more than like some people that are in sales just love sales. They love the thrill of the sale and completing it. And he actually gets a bigger kick out of helping someone else do that, but he's really good at sales. And so there's a connection. But if he hadn't tried out the sales world, he would never have known that's kind of the ultimate application of, at least from a career standpoint, for what he's doing. And so that's what I say. He was always really good at sales, and people would have initially looked at him and said, oh, you'd be a great salesman. And he is a good salesman. Mm-hmm. He'll be an even better leader and someone that helps others become a better salesperson. Yeah. And that's come about from doing things, right? Trying things.
Yeah. And also it sounds like what feels like questioning further. What do you like and what do you like about that and what do you like about that? Like diving into it.
Yes, I like that.
Which is maybe concentric circles or maybe it's a spiral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an ever deeper understanding of the verse is your starting point, is a starting point, and you go deeper and deeper on that. Mm-hmm. Then for the what, that's really, people will often focus on their career. And I learned myself, and I know a lot of people learn, jobs and careers come and go. I never considered myself, as I mentioned earlier, I've been a lot of different things, but I don't consider myself any of those things because they're just an expression of me. They're not me. So when I got early retirement, I had a peer who was an executive vice president, and that's all this person ever, he'd only worked at this company his entire career. And we were in the elevator shortly after it was announced that our department was being eliminated. And I said, how you doing? And he said, not very good. I mean, I don't know who I am right now, because for him, his job defined him. Whereas for me, I have my Ikigai, and my job was an expression of that as opposed to me. And people will often say balance, like work-life balance. I don't like balance because balance implies inequality. Whereas harmony, if you have an orchestra, sometimes the woodwinds are going to be the loudest, and other times it's going to be the brass, and other times it's going to be the percussion, and so forth and so on. And it's that blending of that and harmony of sometimes your career is going to take a lot of time, and other times it's going to be your family, and other times it can be yourself. And So it's blending that in harmony with whatever you're doing so that you're expressing your Ikigai or your purpose in whatever you're doing. And I feel like I can express my purpose in what we're doing here right now when I'm doing work with corporate clients, when I'm working with individual clients, when I'm playing, which I'm going to do later this afternoon with my oldest granddaughter and oldest grandson. We're going to go on an adventure this afternoon. They have adventure shoes, and we're going to go on adventures and go through what we call the dark forest, which is just a green space near here. All of those things are opportunities for me to express my true self and my Ikigai. And that's why I share that 3-circle, Vin. And it's not about your career. People too often get hung up about the career. And I get it. We have to make a living, and that's an important part of our life. And that's not in any way to diminish that. What I want to encourage is to do it in such a way that you're still true to yourself. And I mentioned integrity earlier. If you are doing a job that meets 2 of those circles, but not all 3, you're separate. You're not integrated. You're disintegrating. If you're doing a job that tactically might meet the purpose and from a time and workload standpoint is in harmony with your family and all that, but really doesn't allow you to be you, then you're operating outside of an integrated self and you're disintegrating. And so that's the value as well of those 3 circles being in harmony with one another.
Okay. Does this look right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Try things out, what feels best and why, and dig into the center or further down, drill down. Harmony is blending what you're doing. Like I got the image of flow and this, what's it called? The symbol?
Oh, that's the yin and yang.
Yin yang, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, there's an element of that. I like that. Yeah.
And so this is what, and of course I will make it a little prettier. And so here we have the why, the what, and who are you apart from your job? Is this a correct sentence? Blending what you're doing? Blending with
blending or in harmony, but yeah, I mean, we already have harmony. So yeah, blending what you're doing. Yeah, I like that.
So we have a few things here on top. This is about you.
Yeah.
And this is the whole picture.
Oh, I love this. Yeah. And see, I think even what you're doing here is a great example of Ikigai. You're not a graphic artist. You're not a commercial artist. You're not, right? There's a deeper thing that's you. And this is one way doing this kind of work and conversation. And I love the way you were interpreting my probably inadequate expressions into something more tangible and being able to illustrate it. I mean, there's so much here about you that's on display as well. And I love that. I love what you're doing here. And it's a great example of Ikigai in real time.
In action.
In action. Yeah, thank you. Yes, yes.
I really also feel like with this, I have blended what I love doing, and which is drawing, and I'm interested in ideas. I'm really interested in ideas. And so trying to explore them is what is near to my heart. Love drawing and communication.
Yeah, I can tell from just the way the questions you ask and the way you approach the questions and go deeper. Yeah, ideas excite you and diving deeper.
And also, I'm really curious about how you're doing it because, by the way, he's not, what I don't like is that he's not sitting on the ground. Isn't he grounded in the end? Or is he like levitating?
Let's go with that. I like that. Yeah. Good. I don't know if he would agree with the levitating part, but I like it.
You help people fly.
Yeah, I really do. I mean, this wasn't a long process. Now, again, it's going to be an ongoing process for him, but the work that we didn't go on for months and months and months and months and years. It was a few months really where we got to the tangible change and improvement. And of course, that's gone on and continued and so forth. But in terms of the before and after picture here, it was a very short journey to see noticeable change and improvement. You can make a big difference in your life in a very short period of time.
And you think people can do that also without a coach, or is that like required?
Well, I did it without a coach in the sense that I'm going to say my initial similar position would have been 20 some years ago, but I think it is helpful. And what I like to think about what I do is a force multiplier. So make more valuable any of the insights they have, speed up the understanding of it. I mean, they still have to do the work, but I'm able to multiply the things that they bring, the insights they get, and the actions they can take, and accelerate or multiply the value of those. Yeah.
Okay. I will add a few shadows and then I'll send it to you. And if there are any things that aren't quite as they should be, then let me know.
Okay.
Thank you so much for this. It was really interesting.
That is great. And thank you for sharing your gift with me. I appreciate you sharing your Ikigai with me today.
Okay. That was it.
All right. Oh, that was fun. That was actually a great time too.